Hello everyone, good morning. So today we are in the kitchen instead of in the garden, and we are making homemade bread today. So I wanted to do a video and show you how I make my all around everyday basic white bread. It's great for sandwiches, it's great for just eating, it's great for grilled cheese, it's wonderful toast. And we're going to do one batch today, but all you have to do is double it up if you want to make two and just follow the same steps. It's extremely easy, so come along and let's make some bread. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started on this bread. I'm going to run you down the list of ingredients. So I use unbleached bread flour. You can use all-purpose if that's all that you have. I use Red Star dry activated yeast. Again, you can use any kind of yeast that you prefer. I do weigh this on a scale, but I'll give it to you in teaspoon measurements as well. So we also need water, milk, butter, a little bit of sugar, and some salt. And I don't have a microwave. I have never used a microwave. I just don't find them useful. I think the only thing I ever do with them is maybe heat up a little bit of food and maybe melt butter. So I'm just not a microwave user, so I got rid of it. So I do everything on the stovetop or my little convection oven. And so when you see me melting butter, warming up water and milk on the stove, that's why. You are obviously welcome to use your microwave if you have one. You don't have to live in the dark ages like me. So let's get right into making our bread. So begin by measuring out 3/4 cups of filtered water and a 1/2 cup of any milk of your choice. Then we'll gradually warm this up on the stove at a very low temperature. We're looking for gradual heating. And we'll melt 3 tablespoons of butter. Gradually warm everything up until it's around 100 degrees. So another reason I like to do my water and milk part on the stove is because I can gradually heat it and get it to the temperature that I want, which is just really around 100 degrees, just a little bit warmer than your body temperature. And I just do a wrist test and do a little drop. And if it feels a little bit heated, slightly warmer than my skin, that's the temperature I want it at. That will activate the yeast, but not be too hot to kill it. A microwave is just really hard to be gradual like that. You'll get really hot spots, or you'll just put it in a little too long and then you have to sit there and wait for everything to cool anyway. So I don't always find the microwave to be much faster. So, okay, so I want 9 grams of my yeast, or 1.5 teaspoons. So I'm going to measure that out. And then right in my liquid measuring container, I just add my milk and water, my yeast, get all of this stirred up. And you just want to stir it until your yeast is completely dissolved. Once your yeast is fully dissolved, just set this aside and you're going to let that kind of proof. It's going to raise a little bit, it'll bubble a little bit, and then we'll be ready to go. So meanwhile, in your bowl, add 3 cups of your unbleached bread flour. Break in a little sea salt. I do it by eye. You want about a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon and a half. And 1 tablespoon of sugar. Mix all of that up. I do everything by hand. For me, this is the fun part of making bread, is doing it all with your hands right on your surface. Make sure your counter is clean before you get to the next step. Now, if you prefer, you can do this bread in a machine in like your KitchenAid or any kind of stand-up mixer or anything else that you have that you might prefer. I just like to do it all by hand. It's how I've always preferred to do my bread. And we're just going to go ahead and add our yeast to our dry ingredients. Make sure it's all in there. It should still be slightly warm. And we'll just start mixing. So just get all of your wet ingredients well incorporated throughout the dough. And again, you can double this batch and make 2 loaves. Sometimes I make 2, sometimes I just stick with 1. Depends on how much my family is going to be home for the week, because I don't want my bread going moldy. Or if you make 2 batches ahead of time, you can freeze your second loaf. So flour your surface and go ahead and turn out your dough. I used a little less flour than what I said because I couldn't find my 1 cup measuring. So I'm going to be adding some flour to this. Use a little bit of a lighter flour, use a little bit of a lighter dusting for yours if you measured correctly. I only could find a smaller measuring cup, so that's fine. So here I'm just kneading my dough until I get it to a nice consistency that feels right to me. Once your bread is soft, your dough is soft, go ahead and start adding your butter little by little as you need. And I'm just going to keep doing this until all my butter is in the dough. And then I have a nice consistency. I'll just kind of like fold it in there and then knead. And that helps keep the butter from getting all over the place. And I'm just going to do my final kneading. Why it makes a difference to do the butter that way, but I just found that it has. So I do it that way. Okay. Once you get familiar making bread, if this is your first time or you're not too experienced, this is another reason I like to do it by hand, is because you get a feel for how the dough should feel. The more you work with it, the more familiar you get with your bread dough, how it should feel, how it should act. And your hands will tell you when your dough is ready. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into a bowl and get it ready for its rest. Just butter a clean bowl. Shape your dough into a nice ball. Put it in here for resting. Cover with plastic wrap and set your dough aside in a warm place to rise for 1 hour until doubled in bulk. Our beautiful dough has risen. Look at that. It looks beautiful. It's all nice and bulky, so we are ready to punch it down, and then we're going to shape it and give it another rise. Okay, so get your bread pan ready, and we're just going to butter this down very generously from the bottom to the sides. Make sure you get your corners really well. Okay, and then grab your dough, and you're going to punch the air out of it and give it another quick kneading. And then I just start shaping it. And I tend to like pull everything down to the bottom so I can get a smooth top. And set it into my pan. And kind of stretch my ends out a little bit so I don't have pointy ends. Kind of square it off to shape your bread loaf pan. And then we're going to cover this in plastic wrap again and give this an hour now to do its final rise and shaping. If you're worried about the dough sticking to plastic wrap, you can go ahead and use a clean tea towel. You just don't want your dough to dry out while it's rising. Okay, so I'm preheating my oven to 350 degrees. Our bread is all risen, looking wonderful. Look how good that looks. So we want to come up above the top of the pan a little bit, have a nice kind of balloony bubbled top. Nice bread shape is what we're looking for. And we're going to bake this at 350 degrees for about 40 to 45 minutes until nice and golden brown. And you want it kind of hollow when you tap on it. So my bread is done, and I'm letting it dry out a little bit. It's got some condensation built up because I had to run to the doctor's office and my son took it out of the oven for me, so it's been sitting here getting a little bit of condensation. So if you don't get your bread out of the pan right away, came out really nicely, it will sit there and build up some condensation from the heat and get a little bit wrinkly. So that's okay. It's just because I wasn't able to get it all out as soon as it came out of the oven. But generally you want to get your bread out and start letting it cool where it can get some air and not have condensation get your bread all wrinkly. But because I had to run out, that's okay. The bread is still going to be absolutely delicious. Usually I like to dry them on their side because, again, you can see all the moisture build up. And if you dry it like this, all that moisture comes down to the bottom of your loaf, and you end up with like a wet, soggy-ish bottom. But if you dry it, if you cool it kind of on the side, you get some airflow under here and your crust will stay nice and dry. So let's butter up this slice and enjoy. I have to do this one-handed and not the easiest thing in the world. We'll just pat it on because I'm holding my phone. And there we go. Bon appetit, enjoy your bread. And if you make a loaf, feel free to leave me a message in the comments how yours came out. And I wish you all a wonderful day. Enjoy and have a blessed day. Bye.